County jails, though, in and out, in and out, in and out. This is my first prison term.
Now we are inside the prison.
Change schedule. Hi, how you doing? Little changes.
Corcoran has the bed space to hold about 2,900 inmates, but you can see how that system's sort of been stretched. There are around 4,900 inmates here, and so they've had to make use of the extra space. This is actually a gymnasium, but as you can see, they're using it to house inmates. These are lower level inmates from level 1 and 2, which means that they aren't the serious violent offenders. Well, how about this guy right here? Where are you from?
I'm from Southern California, San Bernardino.
From San Bernardino?
Yeah.
What are you in here for?
Assault.
Assault?
Yeah.
How long are you in for?
I'm going home on Tuesday.
You're on a 6-month violation for violating your parole.
Yes. My original charges is sales of marijuana. So, trafficking marijuana. So.
Can you show us where you sleep, your bunk?
Yeah, sure, come on.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Alright. Kind of my food. Kind of just eat a lot of rice. I don't know. My girlfriend, she sent me this just for fun.
The worst case scenario survival handbook.
Yeah, it's very important.
Have you learned any tips from that?
This is must-have in prison right here, you know. Teach you a lot of good stuff.
You can see the dorm rules at the gym, things like no banging on the doors, use your own phone time, make the bed area when it's not in use. But there are also the rules that the prisoners have amongst themselves, and a lot of those rules fall along racial lines. There is self-segregating, and as you can see over here, you have a table of black inmates, and right over here, a table of white inmates, and the groups just don't mix. Can I sit here? Okay, thanks a lot. How many times have you been in?
This is my first term.
Okay.
I've been in county jails, though, in and out, in and out, in and out. This is my first prison term.
Your first prison term, how's it been?
It's not like people make it out to be. It's really not all that bad. It's calm. It's cool. But it ain't something I really want to come back to.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it can get bad. You know, it just takes 1 minute, everything could be like this, the next minute it could just pop off. Say like he were to get into a fight, it's mandatory that I go over there and I get in it. If I don't, my people will get me in the corner after it's all done. It's like if one jumps, you all jump. And it's how it is. It sucks, but that's the way it is.
And your people meaning the whites.
Right, exactly.
So you gotta help your
and you
your
have no choice
brother.
in the matter. And that's the way the politics are.
So there's no way that you guys would head on over to that other table and mix with the
No. That you
African American inmates.
No, you can get stabbed for that. Honestly, you can. That's like going
By them and by your own people?
by our own people. Their people are different than ours. It's like I don't know. It's hard to say because let's just say, for instance, you know, I come here, I'm new. You know, one of them says, hey, you want, you know, hands me a soup or whatever. You know what I mean? For me, accepting, like, open food, like, off their tray, oh, yeah, I get back here, I'll get beat up by my own people.
So we were just over there talking to those white guys, talking about the racial rules that go on here. Can you guys tell us a little bit about that?
Everybody.
You don't know anything about the rules?
What they do, we got our own.
Yeah, you guys.
Program a whole lot different than they do.
Right.
What if there's a fight? You and the Mexicans or something?
Riot break out.
Everyone has to join in, right?
Yeah, everybody.
So if there's a fight that breaks out between you and the Mexicans, you guys have to get yourself involved. You have to defend your group. You have to.
Yeah, everybody. Do politics as
what they call prison politics.
Prison politics are the rules set by inmates that dictate how they live and fight with other groups. Politics are so powerful in prison that the California Department of Corrections has to take race, ethnicity, and geographic origin into account when housing inmates.
Right here, you have a board of all of the inmates who are housed in this facility, and they color code it. So you have red for Mexicans, blacks, whites for whites, and these are their housing numbers. So for example, in this cell area, room 222, you're gonna have 2 Mexicans here. And you can see how they segregated across racial lines for security purposes because there's so much racial tension. You'll see the blacks are housed together, the Mexicans, the others that could be Asian or Native American, and this is it. Right here you can see these cards on the doors. It helps to identify the inmates by race. Over here you have 2 blue little signs. That means there are 2 black inmates. These 2 red ones mean there are 2 Hispanics. Over here you have a white and a Hispanic inmate.
And the yellow one is for other.
Can we walk up here maybe? I'm Laura.
Frank.
Frank, nice to meet you. Hi, I'm Laura.
JT.
Hey, JT. Nice to meet you. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
What are you up to?
Chilling. Getting ready to do the laundry.
You're doing your laundry?
Well, after, yeah. Every day, yeah.
Right, it's drying right there with the fan?
No, it's wet.
Oh, okay.
Gonna get ready to do it in the sink.
Where are you from?
Castroville, Monterey County.
Okay. How long have you been in?
5 years.
Going on how many?
Got a double life sentence.
Double life sentence. Wow. What are you in here for?
Nothing good.
Yeah.
Got struck out. Smoking that methamphetamines. Tore me up, you know? Ate me up, spit me out, man.
Were you doing drugs here in prison too?
Yeah, I was bringing them in, yeah.
You were bringing it in and dealing it?
Before other places, yeah.
Yeah.
Mainline.
How easy is it to get it?
It's easy. It's easy.
What are the different ways that you would bring it in?
Swallowing it. Or put it in your, case tray. Put it in your private.
Do you guys mind if we take a look inside? So this is what it's like inside a cell. This cell is 6.5 by 12 feet. You have 2 inmates here. These are their bunks. You got a toilet right here, and because the space is so tight, it's very organized with all their things.
At the California State Prison at Corcoran, the inmates, like inmates in other California prisons, operate by their own set of rules that they call prison politics. And the politics can get violent. Corcoran averages 2 assaults per day.
What crimes are most common?
Batteries, assaults, stabbings.
This is a razor.
Yeah, they call it a tomahawk. They attach 2 razors at the end of the handle right there, and that really does a lot of damage.
What are the odds that at any given moment there's like a weapon out on the yard?
About a 90% chance. And when they're out there on the yard, they'll know where that weapon is in case something goes down. They'll go out there and get it and take care of what they need to take care of. All the yards right now, I bet you, have weapons on them. If something goes down, then they'll get it and do what they got to do. So.
Cottonfield, you said that this is a level 4 yard. What does that mean, level 4?
Level 4 is a higher security level than, say, a level 1 inmate. These inmates, when they go through the classification process, they're given a classification score which tells us risk levels.
What sort of things do you look out for in trying to keep it secure?
One of the biggest things that we look out for is grouping. There is a policy where you don't allow any more than 5 inmates to get together on the yard at one time. And some of the things that, like I said, we would look for that would be a red flag for us is if we have a group of blacks on one side, a group of whites on another, a group of Hispanics over in a different location, large groups. That tells us there's a potential problem out there that we need to find out what's going on.
Is it violent out here?
It's what you make of it, you know. I mean, if you're involved in the politics and you're involved with the drugs, it's gonna be violent. If you're just here doing your time and you ain't messing around with other people's program and you ain't getting involved in other people's business, it's you know, it's pretty easy to go by. If you bump into somebody, it's all about using, you know, you say excuse me. It's you know, you don't disrespect nobody, you don't call nobody punks, you don't put your hands on nobody in the wrong way.
Be quiet or take it off.
You just use respect with anybody.
What if I were to disrespect you?
If you did, I wouldn't trip on it.
All right. What if
She weighs 85 pounds.
I mean, let's be real.
I'm so offended.
What we call space, they understand space from custody, which this is good space because you can't hurt me, but being close to him, he can literally take you out just with a simple shank.
I know.
We don't pat him down.
I'm sorry. Every time I want to get close to him.
What's the problem?
Just Sabrina's telling me that I'm getting a little too close to the inmates when I'm talking to them, and it becomes a security risk.
There's a lot of hepatitis, a lot of different diseases. We don't know who has tested, who hasn't.
Got it.
We're in prison. Some of these guys are in for maybe murdering women, you know?
Yep.
So.
The reason we were allowed to wander in the prison yard, full of inmates convicted of violent crimes, was up on top of the walls around us.
Can we walk towards him, the guy? Up there you can see the officer in the guard tower, and she is just keeping watch on these yards and making sure that nothing breaks out. Before we came out here, Sabrina made sure that we adhered to a dress code. We weren't allowed to wear denim or gray or anything that kind of matches a denim color, and that's so that we don't look like the inmates.
You don't want to look like an inmate because if violence breaks out, the guards in the towers are authorized to shoot, and what they'll aim for is anyone standing dressed like a prisoner.
Can we walk towards that shot caller?
Yeah, let's go. He's just gonna disappear, but let's go. There they go. They'll get up and walk.
See, Mitch, watch.
What happened?
Well, there are a couple of guys out there in the yard, and anytime we get too close, they immediately get up and walk away, so they obviously don't want to be interviewed.
Right here behind me. We can walk over there. If they start to walk away, whites. They start to walk away, that means they're...
All right. What's your name?
Yeah.
I'm Laura.
I'm out.
How long have you been in?
Incarcerated?
Yeah.
About 15 years.
15 years. How long are you going to be in?
Probably another 2.
Mind if I ask what you're in here for?
Second degree murder.
How do you protect yourself?
Just don't stay to yourself. Mind your business.
So politics are dangerous?
Anything could be dangerous. You know? Hopefully that's it. Is that all?
I think so. I think so.
He's like 6'4", 260, about 1% body fat, and he's scared of you.
People tell me I'm kind of intimidating.
I mean, you know, scared of the questions. Not scared of you, but scared of the questions.
And that's how powerful prison politics can be. Moments after we left the yard, we noticed that something was going down.
See, they're just all lined out on the ground, and that's what they're supposed to do when there's an alarm.
An inmate who had started a fight was taken away in handcuffs. Once again, the politics of prison had turned violent. And according to prison officials, most of the inmates don't even know the other prisoners who set the rules.
I would say a high percentage of the inmate population has never seen the guys that are influencing running these general populations. They've never seen the guy. They just heard of the guy.
That's because the ones who make the rules are the leaders of secretive prison gangs who are locked up in isolation units.
Like the people who call the shots and make the rules, we'll never see them because they're locked down in level 4s or in the SHU or wherever, but still the orders all comes from there, you know what I mean?
You're basically taking rules from people who you've never even seen, people who are locked up in solitary. Is that how it works?
Basically, yeah, things have been passed down for years and years, ever since prisons been around.
The state of California has 33 prisons, housing 165,000 inmates. Prison officials have one set of rules, but the inmates have their own rules, which are dictated and enforced by 7 prison gangs.
How much violence in the prison is due to the prison gangs and the orders from the prison gang members?
You know, it depends on, I say all of it, I would say.
How dangerous is it in the prisons due to these prison gangs?
Death. It's dangerous. These gang members who run these yards, runs these institutions, by the snap of a finger, you can be contracted for death.
The prison gangs are the Mexican Mafia, the Aryan Brotherhood, Nuestra Familia, Nazi Lowriders, the Northern Structure, the Texas Syndicate, and the Black Guerrilla Family. But unlike street gangs, prison gangs don't even admit they exist, and they don't let the tens of thousands of inmates they control talk about them either.
The Mexican Mafia, you know, if you ask any inmate what's the Mexican Mafia, they're going to tell you, what are you talking about? I've never even heard of that.
Does that go for all the other prison gangs in addition to the Mexican Mafia?
Majority of them, yes, yes.
So the best way to get information is by going to what's known as a dropout yard.
So you can see that there are more people out on this yard, and that's because this yard houses gang dropouts.
You will see that you're gonna see blacks and whites talking. You'll see them there play basketball in a mixed form. So yeah, I mean you can see it even there on the corner on the handball court. You see a Hispanic and a black.
Right.
So you'll see them talking more so than you would on any other yard.
But even here, it can be hard to get a conversation going.
Do you mind if we talk to you actually? You do? Okay, thanks.
Chasing everyone around the yard, huh?
Finally, we had some luck.
What kind of insight are you guys looking for?
What's that?
What kind of insight are you looking for? Prison life in general?
Where are you from?
From San Jose, yes.
Any gang affiliation?
Gang affiliation used to be pretty heavy. The gang affiliation here, there's none, as you know. This particular yard here is for people who want to change for the better. There's nothing but deceit and deception and gang affiliation.
Who did you used to affiliate with?
The NF, Nuestra Familia. It's a 2-star general. We first got affiliated with the NF in 1984 in Old Folsom. Did a lot of groundwork for them, a lot of soldiering for them. It was all in vain. Became a 2-star general and sat in Pelican Bay SHU for 9.5 years.
What was
Accomplished
the appeal
zero.
back then? What was the appeal?
To conquer and run every drug trade, including prostitution in prison. Because as you know, there's he-she's here. It was a struggle to organize not only the struggle inside here, but also outside. Have your foot soldiers going collecting extortion, prostitution, robberies, any means to come up with money.
One way to come up with money is to sell drugs, and any drug that's available on the streets can also be found in prison.
And over here we have
Some of the drugs that we confiscated.
marijuana, methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, tar heroin. So how do they get this stuff in?
Visitors, normally. That's the number one source of getting the drugs into the institutions, through visiting. The visitors will secrete it on their person or in their person, and when they come into the visiting room, just take it out, hand it off, and the inmate will either swallow it or keister it to bring it back to the yard. That's why it's in balloons.
Right here you can see the photos. Most of them are women, and that's because they're people who have visited the inmates here and they were busted because they were bringing in some sort of contraband. Somebody was busted for bringing in heroin, meth, heroin, marijuana, meth. The list just goes on and on. And as a result, all of these people also ended up in prison.
Before there was a cause. If I got out, when I paroled in 86, in 88 when I paroled, my people looked out for me. They gave me $10,000, they gave me a pound of whatever kind of drug I wanted, and a car. That was the brotherhood, that was the carnalismo, you know, that was then. Now, I'm gonna do my best to try to talk you out of your address so I can go and visit your wife while you're still in here. That's the cause now. It's worthless.
So what do you want to ask me?
So where are you from, Maurice?
I'm from Norco, California.
Norco.
Riverside.
How long have you been here?
7 years.
At Corcoran?
I've been in Corcoran in the SHU for 3 years, and I just got on this year.
When did you come out here?
A month ago.
So you were in solitary for 3 straight years?
For 7 years.
For 7 years. What was it like in there?
It's pretty bad.
What got you into solitary?
Gangs. I was in a gang.
Which one?
In LR.
Not to
Aryan
know.
Brotherhood. Yeah, I was affiliated with both.
And then you dropped out?
Yes. I gave all that stuff up.
Yeah.
I'm going home in a couple months.
Congratulations.
I'm done with all that.
What was it like being in it?
Being in a gang?
Yeah.
Well, can you see my face? I got stab wounds all over my body.
Can you show me?
Yeah.
Right there. Wow. Did that all happen here in prison?
Yeah.
When you're in a gang, is most of the violence from your own gang or from other gangs?
Both. We get into it with the blacks, Mexicans. Sometimes the Mexicans and the whites, the southern Mexicans and the whites collaborate to get the blacks and the norteños, and you know, it just comes from all areas, you know. Different people fighting against each other.
What do you have to do to rise in the ranks?
Well, you got to make a name for yourself. I mean, I stab people just like people stab me, so I deserve what I got. Fortunately, I never killed nobody, so you know, that's on my conscience too. You know, I feel bad about that. I'm 37 years old now, and I'm done with all this stuff. So.
It's also a big decision to come into here, because now, are you threatened by dropping out?
Yeah, I'm wanted by everybody.
You have something like this, it's what you would call a roll call. And this right here is being sent out from a lockup unit, an ADSEG, or what is known as a hole. This right here is a list of names who are in good standings with the actual gang. This right here are a list of white inmates. You know, these inmates right here are loyal to and sympathize with the prison policies set forth by the Aryan Brotherhood.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of
They'll sharpen the pen filler, and then when it's real fine, then they're able to use the pen and write such small letters.
All my racial love and respect.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Pelican Bay has a lot.
That's a white inmate right now.
Want to see this? This stupid stuff?
So you like you're a white guy, you show up in prison, someone comes up to you and goes, these are the rules?
Yeah, pretty much. You got a set of rules that you gotta go by. And if you cross that line, then you're in trouble.
What are some of those rules?
Oh, you don't drink after blacks. You don't, you can't even sit and eat with them.
This yard is different though. It's like people are intermixing.
Yeah. There's no colors out here.
Will you sit with the black guy now?
Yeah. I don't have no problem. I'm done with all that stuff. Yeah, I look at a guy on how he treats me, and if he acts like a man, then I got no problem with it. I don't care what color he is. I'm not into none of that stuff.
At the end of the day, I met Teddy. He's an ex-follower of the most notorious prison gang, the Mexican Mafia, or MA, which controls Latino inmates from Southern California.
So if you're Mexican and you're in prison, you automatically
have to be affiliated, pretty much.
So how violent is it out on the other side, on the other yards?
When I was in Solano, I was in like 9 different riots, and that's another reason also that I chose, because I only went there with like 4 years, and I ended up doing instead of only doing 2 like I was supposed to do, I ended up doing all 4 of it. Just for getting in riots with different races, blacks or fights and stuff like that. I went to the hole 3 or 4 times, and ended up I'll be laying in the hole, an extra 6 months added on my sentence, and just laying there thinking, what the hell did I do this for? For some people I don't even know.
Like leaders you never even met?
Yeah, stuff like that, for a cause that I didn't even really know what the hell I was doing, but in order to, just go with the flow, that's what I'd be doing,
And this was for MA?
For MA, yeah. I remember one time I was asked to remove this guy from the yard because there was a riot on the yard, and he didn't involve himself in it. He wasn't there to back up the homies and stuff, so they came to me and they were like, hey Ted, you know what, can you handle this and don't trip, the homie's gonna be much appreciated and he's gonna look out for you, and I was like, all right, you know what, I gotta do what I gotta do, right? So I'll just go do it maybe. So I went to the yard and I beat his ass and I took him to the hole, and he got his little whooping in there and stuff like that, and that was his punishment.
Who's in control, you or them?
Oh, they're in control. It's a catch-up game. Because it's like action's faster than reaction. We can only react to what they do.
Dropouts are segregated from the rest of the inmates for their own protection, but prison gangs are so powerful because they also have influence on the streets.
Are you in danger because you dropped out?
I don't know, yeah.
What will happen if you run into your old gang out on the outside?
Oh, they'll try to kill me. Yeah, they'll definitely try to kill me.
Fate leads them who will, them who won't, it drags. And that's what's happening right here. We're all dragging in one leg right now. We're all crippled, we're all handicapped right now. But for those of us like myself who got a date, what we do with it is yet to be seen. My hopes is to better my life and stay free and die free. I don't want no riches, I just want to die free.
What percentage of the crimes occur because of gangs?
Oh, 95%. Most everybody in here is part of a gang. Not everybody, but most. That's how you survive. And of course, they prey on the weak. And if you don't belong to a faction or a gang, then you're going to get picked on. So it'd be in their best interest too.
What group is the most powerful?
Can I say? This institution is ran by Mexican Mafia. So they have a lot of power in here. Of course, they side with the Aryan Brotherhood, and we have some of those over here also. Us, Pelican Bay, and Tehachapi house all the prison gang members. The street gangs are ran by the fellas in the back, the prison gang members.
Guys in the back is a polite way of referring to people locked in solitary confinement in the shoe?
Yeah.
I just don't want them to get too unruly.
Let's go really fast. They can see us, though.
I know, that's why.
All right. No.
I think people are going to start stripping or something. Over here, you can see that these guys are locked up in cages. That's because this is what's known as the SHU, Security Housing Unit. This is for the most violent of offenders. People don't get stuck into these isolation units because of what they do out on the street. They get stuck in here because of violent acts that they've committed inside prison. It's amazing because we've been hearing about the power structure that goes on in the prison. People will be answering orders that come from the top. And the top means here, these guys who are totally locked up in isolation. The Mexican Mafia, Nuestra Familia, the Texas Syndicate, Aryan Brotherhood, Nazi Lowriders, Black Guerrilla Family. These are the prison gangs that control what happens to the prison and the prison community. And this is where these leaders are, in these cages.
California has 33 prisons, but only 3 SHUs to isolate prison gang leaders once they've been identified.
You have to wonder, how can these people hold so much power when they're locked up into these isolation units? And what we've heard, what we've been told, is that there are ways to do everything. You can pass messages, they have telephone calls with family members, they get to meet with family members, and those messages that they send get trickled down into the larger prison community and even onto the streets.
We're heading out to these isolation units to see if we can talk to some of these inmates, but we've been told not to turn on the camera before we get their permission. That's because some of the leaders of these prison gangs and the most notorious gang, the Mexican Mafia, are located.
Good luck.
Let's try.
Yep.
Guards with rifles in watchtowers looked over as we walked out onto the isolation yard.
So we have to be on this side, so we're under the gunners.
The gunners can see us from the building.
Can we ask this guy? And just from the back?
I started talking with 2 inmates who said they were in the SHU because they'd been slandered, falsely accused of being in Nuestra Familia, the prison gang that controls Latino inmates from Northern California. But we aren't able to air the interview because the inmates refused to sign a release to be on camera.
Somebody told him to.
Yeah, right? Now, okay, so he was just told that he has to be quiet.
Yeah.
It's done.
Okay. So no one else is going to talk?
Nope.
So we can't use that. So we were just talking to a couple guys in these cells, and we started asking them about the political situation in prisons and if they're affiliated with the gangs and prison gangs, and they definitely wanted to shy away from that question, and they got a message from one of the other cells to quit talking, and we're going to see if other people will talk to us. What's your name?
Phillips.
Phillips.
With my nickname, Diamond.
Philip, a.k.a. Diamond. Nice to meet you. Thanks for talking to us.
Yeah.
How long have you been in the SHU?
They put me in the SHU under Black Guerrilla Family. And I'm like, what? I'm a Crip through and through. But that title will hold me in the SHU until I can come up with some way to get out.
Tell me about the difference between being a Crip and being a part of the Black Guerrilla Family.
In essence, the Black Guerrilla Family is more focused on like a race type of unity and more of like it's really in the Bay Area. But Crips, we kind of came from LA and we really didn't have, our main enemies was black on black, so it wasn't really about no race, so it was a whole different culture.
You said that you have a lot of power in the prison system and influence, and you're trying to use that, with the Crips, and trying to use that for good. How are you able to have that influence influence from inside the SHU, and how do you communicate with the other Crips here at the prison?
I've been in here 16 years. I learned different languages and different methods of communication, so it ain't about trying to overpower them physically. I kind of overpower them with logic and say, okay, what's going to work? And so that's what led to maybe a little, influence. Of course, I'm incarcerated for violence 15 years ago, but just having influence, they peg me as being violent to this day.
So this is the inside of one of these modules, and these guys are allowed to come out here for about 10 hours a week, 10 hours every 7 days.
What's it like here in the winter?
But you still come out even when it's that cold?
Again, we couldn't use the audio from this conversation because the inmates wouldn't give their permission.
We work for a show called Current. It airs on cable. Can we talk to you guys over there? Over by your cell right there? Just life. What is it like?
It's pretty different here than on the main yard where we were yesterday.
No one else would talk to us on camera. In the far cells were inmates from the Mexican mafia who wouldn't even talk off camera. They just stared as we passed.
That guy was scary.
26-year-old.
The guy in the very last cell, my God, his eyes. He's like heavy hitter. We're heading into the security housing unit, also known as the SHU. This is where the most violent offenders, as well as the known prison gang leaders, are locked up.
These doors will never remain open because the other 3 doors in here, the sections, they open them at the same time. Right now, they're getting prepared to walk into the tiers, so they have to go with the face shield, the gloves. They're going to go through a security check.
Why do they have to put the gloves on?
For protection from gassing assaults. These inmates that are located in this area, staff assault, if they will, throw pieces, throw urine. So it's for their protection. They have their staff vest on, and they put the gloves on and the face shield.
What sorts of things do the inmates do when you guys are in there?
Well, they could spit at us. They make weapons out of the newspaper, roll them up, and they could stab us through as we open the food ports. They could shoot it through there. They could make bow and arrows out of it. They're creative. So almost anything that you can think of, they could probably make it here.
We'll stand by the door, let them do their chair tour, and then once they come down, we'll have them go in the cell with us, okay?
Okay.
We were only allowed to enter because most inmates from this section were out in isolation units on the yard for a couple of hours.
These guys are conducting a basic security search, and they're giving signals to a man up above me, and we can't film that, but he's controlling the doors and keeping watch in case anything happens over here. So we have to do this very quickly, but we're going to go into one of the cells just to see what it's like, and we're going to go in and out. This is the SHU, the Security Housing Unit. These guys are locked up in here almost 24/7. They only leave for about 10 hours every week. As you can see, the furniture is just all concrete. These are their beds. There's 2 to a cell. And there's not much more, just there's a TV that they have, and obviously they get some sort of entertainment from their posters.
TVs have to have clear plastic cases, which makes it more difficult to conceal drugs or weapons, and no toilet seats because they can be made into weapons.
Okay. we've been hearing that this whole system, this prison system, is based on fear, and the fear of these men in these cages right here. These are the guys who are in control. Even though they're locked into these cells, they still have a lot of power, and you can even feel it when you walk past their cells and you look into their eyes. You can kind of get a sense of the power that they actually hold. How do you control this?
There is no control. They control. We just try to do what we can do to manage, try to deter some of the drugs coming in or stop some of the violence when we get the information prior to. And that's what we can do, try.
In the California prison system, almost the only time you see inmates of different races or ethnic groups sharing a cell is on the day they're waiting to be paroled.
So the minute you arrived in prison, you pretty much had to be aligned with your gang affiliation
and my race.
All three of you guys, you guys are all three different races. If you guys were out, if you weren't getting out today, you wouldn't be in the same cell? Would you be interacting?
Probably speaking, but if something were to happen, then things happen.
That's just the way it works. That's just, you gotta line up with somebody and you go with your own.
Pretty much, it's the way of prison life. I mean, if you choose to go on your own, it's eventually backfires on you.
Do you guys ever worry that the kind of politics that happen here could infect outside in California?
But it's already taken place.
How does that work? How does the politics of the prisons translate to what happens on the streets?
Want to answer?
A lot of the politics, as far as race is concerned, is unfortunately transferred to the streets. And it's a reality.
You think there's more problems out in the streets now than 10 years ago?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Definitely.
And you would be fighting other Hispanic gangs, correct? Out on the streets.
Honestly, as of 10 years ago, yes. Nowadays, no. Nowadays it has gotten racial.
So now you'd be fighting black gangs.
Yeah.
So there's less violence on the street towards your own group than it is towards other groups.
That doesn't sound so good for California.
No. It doesn't sound good for humanity, period.
Venezuela.
Victor, 32-22-4.
Stand by the bus, please. Mr. Jenkins.
F-1-6-76.
By the bus. Mr. Smith.
899-895.
Okay, out there by the bus.
Tower 1 copy.
See more Vanguard Wednesdays at 10 p.m. on Current or online at current.com/Vanguard.